Presented by Hammerhead and the Karoo 2, the only cycling computer with predictive path technology. Get yours at hammerhead.io.
Janel, though, let's break down what I feel are going to be the game changer segments of the course that will determine, I think, our winners and our breakaways and how the course is going to play out. So right at the beginning of the race, around mile 20, there is a climb that they're calling Towers Climb. And this is really where the race is going to open up. You've got kind of a fast, at times double track. So here it's not, but you can see off to the left there are tons of those sharp flint rocks that we were talking about that Michael was showing you in that past clip. The race is going to get fast here, but then you've got that's into a climb. And so this is really an opportunity to test where your legs are. Are you warmed up at this point? Are you with the right group? But then Teeter Hill, Teeter Hill at mile 47, which I believe you've done, Janelle. And it's not once this year, it's twice this year. And so mile 47, you get this massive climb that, oof, it was a leg burner. And for filming, we must have done it 3 or 4 times. And so it was not a fun day out there. But then you climb it again at about mile 143, but on the other side. And so it's steep both times. Janelle, I mean, we're talking about if you're in a great position up until this point in the race, up to mile 47, you're in that lead group, you better hope those climbing legs are ready and you've got the right gear ratio set up.
Yeah,
Also,
absolutely. I mean, the towers climb that you mentioned at mile 20, I think is one of those places where the race will split apart. It's especially significant for the women because a lot of the women will be trying to stay as far forward in the race with the pro men, and it can be a decisive area where splits happen. With Teeter Hill at mile 47, that's where you're really going to see some separation. So yes, I agree, 2 very decisive points early in the race.
and you also referenced the mud. And so when we were there, it happened to be dry-ish, but it had rained a little bit. And of course, it was trying to rain the entire time we were there. But you can see here, miles 152 to about 154, even without rain, there's going to be some wetness, some looseness, potentially the opportunity to really get into some trouble here. So you can see it's a clip here that they made of me riding through this section, and I'm riding on 38 millimeter tires, so not the ideal tire choice for Unbound, but you can see there my bike is caked in mud, my tires are caked in mud. It could potentially be a hike a bike section, and that late in the race, I mean, are you hiking a bike with all your friends? Is this your time to grab your snacks? I mean, this could really be a section also where people DNF, where if they're not looking ahead and they try to ride through, and then you can see me here scraping my bike off, because if you're shifting with all that mud on your bike, it doesn't matter. And maybe unless you're running single speed, right? You're going to probably break your bike. It happens all the time. I mean, did you see that? I think 2016 you were saying was kind of that muddy year that was pretty insane, and probably some DNFs due to that, right?
Yeah, for any riders who are new to Unbound, maybe in the last 3 or 4 years, I'd love to remind you that a lot of the riders had a very short 200 experience where 9, 10 miles into the race, their race was over because they ripped their derailleurs off their bike. So yes, something to be super aware of. I rode through mud like that on the 100-mile route in 2018, and I was off the bike more or less for over a 2-hour period. I was probably more off the bike than on the bike getting through that stuff. And it wasn't actively raining, just like you experienced it, but it had rained, and the water just sits in that mud.
Did you happen to bring like a paint stick with you or something that you could kind of use to clean your bike off? Or what was your strategy at that point? Because that's so early in the race to have to like struggle with, do I clean my bike? Do I try to let it dry? I mean, what did you do?
Well, because I wasn't racing technically the 100, I had and gave myself the time to clean off my tires and my derailleur whenever things gummed up. So yes, I had a popsicle stick, a really wide popsicle stick. It served the purpose. But again, if you're at the front of this race, you need to balance your amount of risk that you're taking with your equipment and the amount of time you spend off the bike. So one of the biggest tips that I heard back in the day after this race was to just keep moving forward. So get off your bike before anything starts to really threaten to cause problems. and then make sure that you're making forward progress. And if this sort of thing happens, we'll see riders who are very motivated, very tenacious, and then skilled, who are able to deal with those kind of conditions.
Yeah. So everybody cross your fingers for some dry weather. And we do have a creek crossing, because I had kind of asked you off camera other spots that you felt might be of note. Of course, you did not ride the same course, but you said that you felt there were possibly a couple other spots that might be of a concern, or that the riders should notate on their maps.
Yeah, there are a few creek crossings that we know of. Like I said, the team in Emporia tried to minimize that early in the race. They don't want that to be the deciding factor, and a safety factor is also there as well. But there is the Camp Creek Road crossing at mile 27. So that's after the Towers Road climb and after an interesting part on some private undrivable part of the course. So that could be something that riders want to be aware of. There's also two new climbs on the southernmost part of the course, Judge Hill, that a Supreme Court judge used to live at the top of the hill. That's how it got its name, and Canyon Hill. I haven't ridden them, but we'll see how they factor in. But Jessica, I think the biggest thing for me is that Texaco climb is coming later in the race than it did in 2017 and 2018, and also that riders are going to have to tackle Teeter Hill at mile 143. For me, those are the two climbs where the body at that point may have given up. And for riders who are struggling there, it's going to be very apparent. And for riders who are doing well, it's an opportunity.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And also kind of what I mentioned earlier, it's really a great opportunity, especially if you're running a one by system, to think you're gearing out. Again, not a huge climbing course, but if these climbs are going to be a spot where you struggle, because I'm at Teeter Hill, I mean, it's 10 to 12 to I think even 14% at a certain point. And I mean, I tried standing on this climb. I was running a 36 up front and I was spinning out. And so it's really just a grinder. You sit down and you spin it out, and you kind of hope for the best. You definitely hope that it's going to be dry, because it is very soft, at least when we went out there. And so that's something to keep in mind too as you descent on the other side. But we've got tons of clips online at flobikes.com that are going to show more of the course, a little bit more in-depth portions. And so go ahead and check those out. And Janel, thank you for your expertise on that course. And obviously we will see you out there. You will be in the commentary booth, I believe, for Unbound.
That's right. I'll be doing commentary for the race. Excited to be back in Emporia. It's always such a great time.